Hello, I will be talking about Huntington's disease today. So first of all, what is Huntington's disease? It's a autosomal dominant neurodegenerative disorder. It's first recognized as an inherited disorder by a 22-year-old physician named George Huntington, and the disease is named after him, apparently. So he published the paper on chorea. Chorea is one of the distinctive clinical symptoms of Huntington's disease patient, and it's characterized by involuntary movements affecting especially shoulders, hips, and face. There are four major distinctive phenotypes associated with the disease. Other than chorea, patients show signs of incoordination such as clumsiness in daily lives and cognitive decline. They have difficulties in learning and behavior difficulties, which could be problems in socializing and interacting with others. So the Huntington gene mutation is responsible for the Huntington disease, and the gene codes for a protein called Huntington. Although the function of the protein is unknown, it appears that the protein plays an important role in neurons in the brain. So the mutated gene produces malfunction protein, which leads to a loss of cognitive ability in Huntington disease patients. And more specifically, the mutation is a CAG trinucleotide repeat. So normal people have less than 35 CAG repeats on their gene, but people with Huntington disease tend to have more than 40 repeats. The number of repeats also have an impact on the onset age of the patient. So the more repeat the patient has, the earlier that the person is going to develop symptoms. And that also ties into the juvenile Huntington disease problem. It's a more rare version of the Huntington disease, but with an earlier onset age. In terms of the mode of inheritance, it's a autosomal dominant disease, as we kind of touched upon earlier. So it affects both sex and children in every generation. And there's a anticipation phenomenon in a CAG repeat. So it basically means the amount of CAG repeats would increase every time the gene is passed down to the next generation. So there were some cases where the children develop Huntington's disease even though their family has no history of it. And because it's a autosomal dominant disease, it's almost impossible that this would happen because they would have to get it from their parents. However, the anticipation phenomenon can explain this situation. The parents may have a borderline amount of CAG repeats, and as the mutated gene passed down to their children, the CAG repeats increase in amount that is sufficient to develop the Huntington disease. So the disease would not exist in the parents, but shows in the next generation. So in terms of the impact that the Huntington disease had on society, I will be talking about how the condition of Huntington disease patients fueled the research and study in genetic testing and gene therapy as important diagnosed measures and potential treatments. So genetic testing is a diagnostic tool for science for physicians to determine if someone is a patient and have the risk of developing Huntington's disease. So the procedure they perform is called PCR. They will have procedure done on a blood sample to isolate the DNA and make multiple copies of the sequence. Then they will examine the DNA and see how many CAG repeats actually existed in the DNA, and based on the number count, they will be able to have a um, estimate on whether the patient is at risk or is definitely going to develop it in the future. And gene therapy is supposed to be the treatment for Huntington's disease, but there's no active gene therapy treatment FDA approved on the market right now. So the most promising treatment proposal is gene silencing to reduce Huntington gene expression as shown on the graph. So a reduced level of gene expression would directly result in a lower level of malfunction protein production and symptom relief. So in theory, a synthetic modified nucleotide agent binds to the designated region in Huntington mRNA and break the mRNA down, so it won't produce any Huntington proteins in this case, which is going to relieve the symptom for Huntington disease patients. Thank you.